Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Joe. This is EMP Cycle Works. Today we got a great video for you. We're putting together this 2016 twin cam. Putting a nice little cam in it, Jim's Performance Max-Cell cam, and it's going to be a fun day. This is part 2 of the 2-part video series. Long video, and then you get to hear how it runs, so it's going to be fun. So check it out. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you at the end. So in these bearings, as you can see, there's bearing and then race in there. The new bearings that we're going to install are what they call full complement bearings. So these ones are all bearing in there. There's no different race. You can see that. So the bearings are wider and there's more of them, so there's actually more bearing surface on the new bearing. And then this tool, I'm not sure who makes it. I borrowed it from another shop. I ordered the right one, I just don't have it. This is the puller. This thing goes behind the back of the bearing, and it expands when you put the rod in to grab the back of it. And then there's two sides to the collar here. There's one with the space milled out of it. It goes towards the bearing. If you put this side towards the bearing, then what will happen is the bearing will smash against this as you're pulling it out, and you'll have a really bad day. So show this again. Stick the tool in there. Put the rod in there. Then we put the tool with the larger diameter towards the bearing. Washer, and then nut. And there's flats on this, on the threaded part, to put a 5/8 wrench on. And then, so you basically hold that still and tighten the big jam nut. Alright. So anytime you have anything that doesn't feel right or doesn't sound right, double check. Especially when doing an operation like this, like removing these bearings, because if anything happens to the inner cam bearing and it gets damaged, then there's a good chance that pieces of the bearing will go inside the crankcase, in which case that's really bad, in which case you have to pull the motor apart to repair it. Just pick the bearing, make sure it's still all there, which it is. Alright, the next operation would be to install our new Timken bearings here. So I have a tool made by Jim's. This plate will bolt to here with some thumb screws. And then for each one of these, I'll be able to stick this threaded part in the rod here. And then the collar attachment, which lets you install this piece, which actually presses the bearing, and there's a little lip on both sides, and that will give you the correct depth of installation. So as long as you don't go crazy, you can't over tighten it. And it's two different sizes, because this is the size of the, I believe, 06 to 2010 twin cams, and this is the 07 to 17, and this is a 17, I believe. So we're going to use the bigger side. When you install the bearing, there's writing on one face and there's no writing on the other face. So you want to always have your tool pressing on the side with the writing. The bearing is actually beefier on that side to allow you to press it in. And I usually use a bit of just WD-40 on the outside to prevent any galling. And then writing goes on our tool here. And this thing's going to go with this hole here being located on the engine case dowel there, or the cam plate dowel. And then it comes with these thumb screws. Alright, and then we just thread this shaft on. And I'm taking a look through the top, and I'll also look through the bottom just to make sure I'm square and in the right position here. And then I'll take my tool, or my 3/4 ratchet, and you don't want to use an impact tool. You want to be able to feel what's going on here. So it should go in fairly easy, and as soon as you feel resistance, then you are done. No, I just got a little bit tight, but okay, yeah, that's better, much better. So there's like a taper lip here. It should be on the inside of that taper lip. Alright, same thing, then take a look, make sure we're good. There we go. And that is the inner cam bearing installation. So anytime you do cams, that's definitely a good idea. I won't even tear apart a trim cam motor without replacing those. Anything in here, any kind of service, you know, oil pump, tensioners, anything like that, it's a good idea just to replace those cam bearings, because they, especially if we don't have the full complement bearings, they're prone to failure, so it's always good to do that. So we have our new cams that we're going to install here. These are the Jim's V-Twin Performance Max-Cell cam, the T905A. These are really good bolt-in cam for a really good sound and some you know, pretty good boost in performance here. But the sound is what we're kind of after on this job. The customer is kind of what he's after. It's more of like a cammed, loopier sound. The first thing I do is take off these. You gotta get rid of the tensioner here. And the shoes are really good. There's not a whole lot of wear on them. I am going to replace them with fueling shoes. And then we just have a snap ring holding that cam in, the front cam. Pop that off. Alright, so we got the cam plate off, and so I'm going to get this thing cleaned, and we will pop the new cam in, time it, and then install it. So we got a cam plate cleaned, so now we're going to swap the chain. Here. So take our cam, and now on these cams are dots, and they want to face inside. They want to face each other. All right, boom. There we go. Got it timed. So, I'm going to take our Maxima assembly lube and lube the chain up. Make sure I lube the bearings and the cams. And also the inner cam bearings. And where the cams ride. And the cam journals here. And make sure everything is good and lubed. So now the cams just drop in like so. And yeah, they get pretty close right there. But we just verify timing with the dots here. Verify timing with these dots here, and they line up. So that is good. So we will reinstall our shim there and our retaining clip. I'm going to verify that it's in the channel the whole way. You want to verify the clip is in the channel the whole way. Now we need to reinstall our tensioner shoe here. Or our tensioner. So we have our fueling tensioner here, and our tensioner housing, and stick it in like so. And then the bolts get blue Loctite, and they get torqued to 120 inch-pounds. And I like to smear it around so it's not a big glob. You don't need a crazy amount of Loctite, just enough to keep these bolts from backing out. And now we get our torque wrench and torque these. Get these O-rings installed. So there's the oil pump O-ring I'm going to lube and place it inside the bore down here for the return. And there's two more O-rings that go in these holes for the cam plate. Alright, then the next step would be to take your oiler, and I'm going to just put some oil in these bearings here and inside the oil pump itself. And around this surface here, and I'm going to place the oil pump in and press here so I can get it to index into the O-ring that we just put in there. Put some lube in this. Lube up the oil pump good. And then I need to get these flats aligned with the flats on the crank. So I went right in just like that. Okay, perfect. Now we have our spacer plate. That goes in nice and lubed. Our wave washer. Our other spacer plate. And these index into the grooves on the top of the bottom. And then we have our feed side of the pump. Okay, got that in. Some lube on it. And the same thing, we have to index it. Like so. It never hurts to a little bit more lube on there. And we have our cam plate. A little bit more assembly lube just to make sure. And now, with our O-rings installed, we're going to install the cam plate. Like so. So that's real simple. Verify they spin nicely and that we're still in time. And these cams have a dot here and here in a line. We are good. So now we need to get these bolts in and do the we need to get these bolts in and center the oil pump, and I'll show you how to do that now. To center the oil pump, we use these centering tools here. These are for centering Evolution style lifter bore or lifter bores or lifter blocks. Just like any other twin cam or M8, the oil pump is numbered. So what these do is they'll center it in the cam plate. So I'm going to thread these in 3 and 4 just by hand, and then I'm going to get the bolts in the cam plate. And I'm just going to go just so they touch. I don't want to go too crazy right now. Before I started filming here, I took the spark plugs out and put the bike into 5th gear and lifted it up a little bit so I can spin the rear wheel and spin the crankshaft. This is really important to align the oil pump with the crankshaft, and this will allow everything to get centered and run properly. So I'm going to spin the wheel a couple times. And now I am going to put a little bit of torque on the cam plate bolts here, just with my wrench. Nothing crazy. Spin the rear wheel. And now I'm going to put the 1 and 2 oil pump bolts in. Just touch them. Back them out just a slight bit. Okay. Now I'm going to torque all the cam bolts, cam plate bolts, to 120 foot-pounds. Spin the rear wheel again. All right, now I'm going to use my wrench and just snug these centering bolts. Spin the rear wheel. Now I can torque 1 and 2. Spin the wheel again. And that oil pump is centered. So I'll remove my centering tools. Put the last 2 screws in and torque them down. Alright, now I'll pull my extension off and just double check everything. That way I know for certain everything is at 120 inch-pounds. Alright. Now, spin the wheel. And no binding. So, in order to get this thing into time, I need to have this flat facing up, or facing this dash here. Oil pressure starting to build a little bit. It's good. Now I'm going to reinstall the cam shim here and then install my cam gear. Sprocket gear, because anytime we put a new cam in, we have to check and make sure that the cam sprockets are aligned. They can't be any more than 9/1000ths out of plane from each other. So I'm going to align this surface and this surface. And it appears that we are way off. Alright, I got it properly spaced out. I had the sprocket in upside down, so with it on right, 130 thousandths shim, which is 10 thousandths bigger than the stock one, is what it takes for the alignment to be within like 5 thousandths. So well within the spec of 10 or 9 thousandths, I'm sorry. So the shims are available in 10 thousandth increments. So, okay, now we're going to set the final timing. So we want to make sure that our cam timing is right. Just double, triple check that. Take our cam sprocket and time it the same way we did the inner chain, so where the 2 dots line up. And then we place with our shim on there, shim already installed. Place it on there like so. Now I got a fueling, what is this, the chain drive quick cam installation kit here. That's where all my seals and everything came with. And they come with new fasteners here. It also comes with a new clip for this cam, so I'm going to go ahead and install that while I'm here. Alright, get the timing back on. Alright, for these bolts we're going to use this ARP Ultra Torque, which is going to give us proper torque on these bolts. And make a mess at the same time, so. All right, on these we're going to go to, so first I'm going to take these bolts to 15, hold in the rear brake. And then I'm going to remove them one full turn. And then we have 25 foot-pounds and 35 foot-pounds. $25. And 35. And this assembly lube on the chain. We have our Torx bolts. We're going to install. From here, we're going to drop in our new fueling lifters that I have soaked in oil. I'm going to take my oiling can and just squirt it in there, make sure everything's nice and lubed. These are soaking in oil, and I will also squirt some oil into these holes. And then I'll just make sure they're nice and bled. Alright, with the lifters installed, we will install our anti-rotation pins. And now I'm going to spin. Everything looks to be working very well. Real happy with that. Okay. Next step is to get our covers on, and then we'll do our adjustable push rods. If you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe. Helps out. These videos take time and effort, and just just help so I can make more. All right, so I got my rag. I sprayed a little bit of brake cleaner. I'm going to get this surface, the gasket surface here, nice and dry. No oil on it. Same with the cam cover there. And we got our Cometic lifter cover gaskets here. They go on like so. So make sure these tabs go over towards your anti-rotation pins. These covers will go on. And then, like always, I put a little bit of blue Loctite on these bolts. Pretty much like every other bolt on this engine. Harleys have a tendency to vibrate. It's kind of the nature of the beast with their single crank pin. Just kind of how they inherently are. So any kind of Loctite on fasteners, especially critical fasteners like this, will help prevent bolts from backing off and leaks. And help these bolts from backing off and preventing leaks, or help prevent leaks, I should say. And then, just like all the other ones, these are 120 inch-pounds, or any other quarter 20 fastener, really. All right, then we're going to get our cam cover on. Got Loctite on our bolts. Got our cam cover nice and clean. And what I usually do is put a bolt or two, one towards the top, one towards the bottom, just to hold the gasket in place. Alright, now like all the rest of the quarter 20 bolts we have, these get torqued to 120 inch-pounds. Alright. Next step is to get our push rods in. So we got S&S Quicky push rods here. Start by putting the O-rings in the lifter blocks. And then in the heads. Push rod up, and then we let the inner part slide down, and then we're going to turn the inner push rod. One thing I didn't show is I cleaned these push rods really well, and then I blew air through them to make sure there's no chunks of metal or anything from the machining process that could be trapped inside there. You can also look just to verify that there's no chunks in there. I've seen them before where they come from the factory clogged, or with debris in the inside, and if you don't take care of that now, then that debris is going to go through your whole motor, and it's never a good thing. Okay, so we have zero lash, so up and down there is zero movement. And I'm going to going to use my wrench to hold on the nut here on the actual push rod, and then I'm going to turn the inner one 16 flats, or 4 complete turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then move our jam nut. And the same thing, just squeeze these together, and then I'll lock it in place. Alright, push the outer sheathing into the O-ring here, and then I'm going to hold down, take my flathead screwdriver, and the inner sheathing, I want it to kind of snap into the O-ring on the top. You'll feel it when it happens. And then we take our push rod cover, and what we're going to do is stick it to the top and the top of the head, where the inner one goes into the O-ring, and then use our screwdriver to pry this collar down under the spring tension, and use the sheathing, or use the cover as kind of like a lever, and just walk it in. Sometimes on the inner ones you got to watch out because the collar moves and it'll hit a fin, and it'll stop it from being able to go down all the way. So that was much easier. Okay, now that our push rods were able to move, that means the valve isn't being held open. If these push rods don't move, you gotta wait for them to bleed down. If you don't, and you try to turn the motor, then you risk having the piston hit the valve, or hit the valve hitting the piston, because the lifter is actually holding the valve open a little bit, and that's why you can't turn it, because there's spring pressure on it. So the process is the same for the front. I'm gonna feel the lifter. I'm gonna feel for the lifter to raise up, and then down, and then that is where we can make our adjustments. Alright, so now I'm going to rotate the rear wheel just to make sure that right now I'm going to rotate the rear wheel to make sure we're not binding or anything. And it feels good, so I'm going to put this all back together, and then we're going to start it and see how it sounds. It should sound pretty good with the new cam. So I'll get back with you when we get it together. Alright, here's a 2016 Street Glide I just finished. Thought I had wiped it down, but as soon as you get out in the sun, definitely see that some of the spots that I missed. But I basically wanted to let's see how it sounds. This is with that Max-Cell cam, just a bolt-in cam. Nice easy install. Customer's going to be happy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.